So this was modeled as a power copy. Now I want to model this as a document template. And the reason I want to make it a document template is I want to embed a drawing in it. So every time it generates one of these floors in the model, it's also going to generate a drawing, a plan view drawing. Document templates are like power copies, but they're products and parts, and not just geometric sets that get instantiated inside a part. The first thing I'm going to do is save this file as a different file. I don't want to mix a document template and a power copy. I'm going to have two separate files. Well, actually, maybe I do want to make them the same. Let me see if I can first. I actually don't know if I can. I'm going to go to Project Standards, Product Knowledge Template. And I'm going to create a document template. There's this Create Knowledge Pattern feature. We've used that, or we've seen that button before. The Create Document Template is right above it. When I create a document template, okay, great. Now I do have a separate Knowledge Templates node in my tree. And I want to define the inputs. Here my inputs are going to be the same as my power copy. Plane 1, plane 2, and surface. The inputs are going to be manual, that's great. Role, I'm glad that the role is the same name. And right now, I also want to publish a few parameters. The parameters that I'm going to publish are the same parameters that we set inside of our knowledge pattern before. So I have to edit my list, select the name parameter in the tree, and it highlights it in this window. You have to click this little right arrow to put it in the actual published parameters list. So I clicked that arrow, it dropped it in this field. If I click on level, it does the same thing. I click the arrow and it moves it over to this field. So now when I instantiate the document template, I can set my name value and my level value. Click OK. Here they are. And that's all I'm going to do for now. Click OK. Now that it's in the tree, I'm going to rename it here. And I'm going to use the same name as the power copy. I'm just going to give it a little DT prefix instead of the PW. So I'm going to right click, Properties, Feature Properties, and copy what's highlighted in the name field. Go to my document template, Properties, paste the name, and then change PW to DT for document template. Okay? Now save this file. Before I go too far, I'll just add this to the catalog so that it's in my catalog as well. So I need to go back to my KP files folder, knowledge resource catalogs, drag my catalog back into that instance of DP, double click on my family, add a component, select external feature, go up to my window, drop down, and go to my other part. Click on the document template this time, not the power copy. And then it's the same process. Copy the name, go to keyword values, paste that in the name. Usage, instantiate the floor study document template. I'm just going to leave the type blank right now, and value is going to be the same as the name. Click OK. Save the catalog and close it. Now when we instantiate with our action, it knows where to find the document template in the catalog. We're not going to instantiate with a knowledge pattern. We're going to instantiate with an action, and it's going to be a very similar process, a very similar code. It's just different component, different button, basically. So we have our document template. Not much has changed yet. I want to add a part. I want to add a drawing. That way, when the document template is instantiated, the drawing goes with it, and the drawing updates whenever the geometry updates. So we need to make a new drawing. File, new, drawing. Okay. I'm not concerned about format right now. I'm not going to scale the drawing. I'm going to leave the drawing full scale. So if I export the drawing later as a DWG or DXF, it'll be exported at full scale. That's typically the way I've just worked in the past, and let other programs do the formatting, like AutoCAD or DraftSite. Click OK, and now I've got a blank sheet, a drawing, and a sheet.1. I'm going to rename this drawing. So right-click on the drawing, properties. Oh, no properties. Sorry, we'll rename the sheet. The name of the drawing is renamed when you save the file. We'll rename the sheet. Right-click on the sheet, properties. Instead of sheet.1, this is going to be tower, floor, study, plan. Was that the same acronym I used for study? Yes, it is. Okay. And I'm going to right away save this file. Save the drawing, the empty drawing. And I'm going to save it in the same location as my document template and power copy. Cat drawing. This will be the same name. Tower, floor, study, plan. Save. And now I want to link the document template with the drawing, or the part file with the drawing. So I just hit Control Tab to shift back to my other window. And I'm in the knowledge template workbench. I want to go to the architecture and structures workbench. So I go to Start, Project Center, Architecture and Structures. This is the only workbench that contains these drawing features. So Architecture and Structures, I'm going to make a new sheet on the bottom left. There's a Sheet button, and it asks me what drawing sheet do I want to connect to. I'm going to go to my window, tab over to my drawing, and select the sheet. So now it's linked the drawing sheet to my part. Click OK, and it's given me an A&S Sheets node in the tree, Architecture and Structures sheet in the tree, and then there's the sheet connected to my drawing. I didn't have to name it, it automatically took the name from that sheet. Now I want to make a view of this geometry. And the views are underneath this button. There are 4 different views, I think. 5 different views. A view from 2D, which doesn't get a lot of use. There's a grid view, which produces architectural grids or levels. There's a section cut view, which shows just the elements that are intersecting with a plane. There's a section projection view, or a section view, and that's a section and then showing what's beyond. And then there's a front view, which is no section cuts. It's basically showing anything visible on a screen projected onto a plane. What I want to do here is I'm going to show how to use the 2 section cut and the section projection together, even if they're going to be showing the same information. The section cut I'll do first. So we'll call this name section cut. Support, I'm going to use my plane.1 as my support. You see it automatically kind of blocked out. what is visible for the drawing. I'm going to do an offset here of 24 inches. Oh, it went the wrong direction. I'm going to go minus 24 inches. There we go. So now I'm cutting through the glazing. And that's the only thing that's going to be visible in this view when it's cut. I'll just use the default generative view style since that's what you have. I'll select no boundary, no group. We'll do automatic dress up, hit OK. And so it's left my view in that trimmed visibility mode. If I go over to my drawing and zoom extents, I have my geometry, just the cut through the glazing. I'm going to tab back now. If I want to see everything again, I click on the remove section button, and now I'm back to my full geometric view. I'm going to add another view to this drawing. That's going to be the section view. And I'm going to call this section projection. I'm going to use the same plane as a support. I'm going to do another offset of 24 inches, default view, OK. If I tab over to my drawing, now I've got my section cut, and then right below it my section projection. These are two separate views. I can grab one and drag it off to the side if I wanted to really compose my view. If I accidentally move it, I can right-click, right-click, view position, superpose, and I'm superposing this view onto this view, and it just recentered it back on top. It layered one drawing on top of the next one. There's not a lot of information in this plan right now to draw, so this isn't going to be a very fancy drawing when it's generated. The one thing I do want to show is a label for what floor this is. So I'm going to create a point where I can put a 3D tag. The point is going to be, let's see, where should I put it? I've got my surfaces, I've got my attribute set. I'm going to make another geometric set for tags. I'm going to put it under surfaces. So select surfaces, right click, define a work object, make a new geometric set, and rename this one tags. Okay. I'm going to change the view so I can see everything again, and you'll notice that in the 3D space I have these drawings and I don't really want to look at them right now, so I'm going to hide A and S sheets. So the point that I want to put in this model so that it's visible is, well, let's try to do this. Let's try to just put it at the center of gravity of this bottom intersection curve. Center of gravity is a kind of hidden tool. It's not by default an option when creating a point. So you have to make a point on a plane, for instance. Select the point, click OK. Select the plane, click OK. Now you have a live point here. And we want to isolate that point. So right click on the point, go to point object and isolate. And what you're doing here is you're killing all references to any other parent geometry. So this point is not linked anymore, it's dead. It's got the little red parentheses showing that. I'm going to rename it COG point. Okay? And I want to create a formula to connect that point to this intersection curve. So I bring up my formula f of x button, select the point in the tree. So I have the edit value or current parameter name here. And then edit formula or add formula. The formula that I want to make is in the point dropdown. So I go to my dictionary field, drag down to point constructors, and then these are the different ways that you can make a point as a formula in a rule or a knowledge pattern, in addition or identically to the same way you'd make a point with the dialog box. So I want to make center of gravity. Double click on center of gravity. It gives me open parentheses. I want my center of gravity to be the bottom intersection curve. Double click on that and click OK. Yes, I want this formula to update this feature. Click OK here. And now you see this point is defined by a formula. The location of it's changed too. So whenever this curve changes, this point is going to reflect the center of gravity of that point. I'm going to use this point to create a 3D tag that will be projected into my drawing. So by first select the point and in the tree or in the model, and then click on the 3D tag. Now the location will be a center of gravity point. Label I'm going to leave empty, and you don't have these different types of points. You've got 3-line, 4-line, small, medium, large. I'm going to select large, just plain old large. Okay? And now I want to go back to my naming rule and define the label to match the geometric set name. So expand my rules, double click on naming, enter at the end. In my model, click on label. I'm going to copy the equals and then the name that I've used for everything else and paste it at the end of that line. So I've got my label equals my parameter plus an underscore plus my 2 string levels. Okay? Oh, and there's an update cycle. The update cycle. The update cycle is saying, well, this naming rule defines the name of the geometric set. It can't also define the name of this label. It's creating this kind of circular reference through the tree, and it is having problems resolving it. The way I'm going to fix that is double click on the rule. I'm going to cut this this line right here that I pasted as the name. So Control X, and I'm going to delete the label. So we're not going to edit the rule. We're going to leave the rule just naming the geometric set and then the attribute value. Click OK. I'm going to do this with a formula instead. I'm going to double click on the label, edit formula, and then paste that line in the formula. My parameter name underscore plus 2 string level. Click OK. OK. Now it's happy. I'm going to rename the tag name tag. Okay? And I'm going to hide my COG point. You can see I've got this kind of 3D text in my model now. Whenever I rotate around, it's there and it's visible. If I zoom out, it scales with the model the same way the planes do. And if I tab over to my drawing, it's found that the model has changed and it needs an update. So I can update here, update active sheet. I can update here, I can update the selection, or I can update down here, update current sheet. Each one of those three methods of updating those sheet behaves slightly different. The most luck I've found is using update active sheet to not make it blow up. And now I've got some very tiny text in the model. The way I can format that text is by modifying the XML data in the program files for this style of text, or I can scale the sheet, or I can scale the text over here. I'm not going to bother with it right now. I'm just going to leave that tiny little text in the model or in the drawing and deal with scaling elsewhere. So that's all I want right now for the drawing. I'm going to save this, and hopefully when I save that, yes, it saved my drawing as well. No, it didn't. I tabbed over, saved it. The last thing I want to do is make a reaction to trigger this smart divide knowledge pattern when it's instantiated, when the document template is instantiated. The problem we had before when we instantiated the power copy and this knowledge pattern didn't update is going to happen again with the document template, but it's going to be more difficult to update because these document templates are going to be separate parts. If I have a reaction that on instantiation of this document template updates this knowledge pattern, then we won't have to go in part by part and trigger an update to get this thing to fire up and update our drawings. So the reaction is in the Knowledge Advisor workbench. I hit Start, Project Standards Knowledge Advisor, and there's Action VB, Action Regular, or Action with the kind of knowledge pattern language. And then there's a reaction up here. When I click the reaction button, it says, what am I going to look for? What trigger am I going to look for in the model that's going to set off this code? It's looking for an activity. It's looking for an action, and as soon as that happens, the code will run. What I'm going to do is say, how about when my level changes? Because the level is getting set every time this document template or power copy is instantiated. When this level changes, update this knowledge pattern. So by clicking on level, it says, on my level parameter, it says the available event that it's looking for is a value change. That's the only event that it's looking for. And that's great. That's all I want. Now I can select either a VB action, where I'm writing this in VB, or a knowledge-where action, where I'm writing it in the knowledge-where code. I'm going to do knowledge-where, because that's easier for me, and it's all we need right now. Edit action. We don't need that. And all I want to do is trigger this knowledge pattern to update. So double-click on the knowledge pattern. And now I can either type in, using the correct syntax, update, or I can use my language browser to help me find it. So I clicked on language browser up here, shows language browser panel. I clicked somewhere in here on this smart divide KP knowledge pattern to give me the available functions that I can use with that. And then I went to the very end of the line. Go to the very end of that line. And I'm just going to look for update. Double click on update, and it drops in a little line, arrow, update parentheses. That's all I want in this reaction. Close. OK. Click OK again. And now if I change level, if I change this level parameter, this reaction.1 that's been created should trigger this knowledge pattern or give me an error that it can't be updated. So let's change it to 299. And it happened really, really fast, but the action went, it updated this. There was nothing to update. And that's that. Because this is a document template, it's going to instantiate the entire part. It's not going to instantiate just this geometric set. So it's less critical that these formulas and reactions live or are transferred inside this geometric set. I'm going to move them anyway because it's also a power copy. So if I want to instantiate this later as a power copy, these formulas and reactions need to be inside this geometric set. So I'm going to select those two formulas, selected objects reorder, move them into my formulas area. The reaction I'm going to rename as update my smart divide KP. Okay, and then I'm going to move it into my rules set. Okay. Hopefully that works. We'll find out. I'm going to instantiate this soon, and we'll see if it actually does trigger the update of the smart divide. I'm going to hide the inputs and save. With the document template done, we can go back to the context model and instantiate. So I loaded my context model into design mode, and I'm going to first go into this driver study model, delete everything, and save it as a new part. So I'm going to kind of break the context of this part. Double click on the part. I'm going to delete all of the floors out of construction. Select them, press delete. Yes, I'm going to delete all children. And now I'm going to save this. I'm going to rename it and save it as inputs. This part is going to act as inputs for the document templates that I'm going to instantiate into this model. So I'll rename study tower driver floor inputs. I'm going to rename the component instance name and the part number down here. Apply, OK. And now file, save as. I'll leave it in the driver right now. Tower driver floor inputs, save. Yes. Okay. Now from here I'm going to publish all of my external references. But first, if I publish plane.1, which is my level plane, it's going to be published as plane.1. I don't want it to be published as plane.1. I want it to be published as level plane 1. So I'm going to do a quick rename using Excel. Select all of those planes in my external references and click on the Report to Excel button. I want to send the instance name, the part name, and the body or set name all to Excel. Click Apply. And let's see, what did I actually want from here? Oh, it didn't take anything of what I wanted. We're going to have to try that again. Close Excel. Don't save. Cancel that. Select the planes again. Click on Excel. This time we'll do link to reference path and full tree path. Man, it is not giving me what I want. Okay. We'll do this the just as easy but different way. Where it says plane.1, I'm going to type in level underscore PL underscore 1. Level, enter. Next line, level underscore PL underscore 2. Now I'm going to select those two and drag them down. And there, that's renamed the name field. Go back to this sheet, go back to the digital project and press synchronize. And it's going to pull the data from Excel and rename those planes. Now I can close Excel, don't save. I can cancel this, and my planes have been renamed to match their original name. Now I'm going to publish all of these elements. Select all my external references, go to Tools, Publications, yes. Okay, got a Publications node. Collapse that. I'm going to update because it says it wants to update, and I'm going to save. Okay, now I'm going to make a product. The product is going to be the context into which all of the document templates will be instantiated. The product is going to go right into the Twr driver. So double click on Twr driver, double click a couple times just to be sure. Right click, components, new product, Twr driver floors, Twr driver floors. Okay, and double click on that product, and I'm going to file save as. We'll put it inside the driver. I'm going to make a new folder in here while I'm at it. New folder, floors folder, and then save this Twr driver floors here. Oh, it's trying to put it there. Okay. Now I'm going to go back into the part. I'm going to copy the instantiation code from the knowledge pattern, and then we're going to create an action to instantiate the document template. So let's go back into the inputs part, double click on that knowledge pattern, and just copy the code, X out, close out of that knowledge pattern, and we're going to put the action to instantiate the document template inside the Twr driver product. So double click on that product. Right now we're in the architecture and structures workbench, or sorry, the project workbench. We're going to go to knowledge advisor, project standards knowledge advisor, find an action, the action button down here. And I'm just going to click OK and leave it blank for a second. So click OK. So now we've got relations inside the Twr Drv product with action.1. I just wanted to make sure it got in the tree before I started writing any code. Double click on the action to bring that window back up. Enter, enter, and paste. I'm going to paste the code here. One thing, I linked my plist last time to planes list. That link is broken now, so I need to delete that line, plist, and go into my part, my inputs part now, and click on the planes list here. Now it's no longer linking to just planes list, it's linking to planes list inside this part. Since I published those planes, whenever I grab a plane out of that list, it's going to create an external reference inside the document template that's referenced to that plane. I'm also now going to connect my surface to my external reference. And the path only slightly changed it again, added the inputs tree location. What we're not going to do with this action is add the power copy to a list. Because we published the parameters, we can set the parameters as if they were inputs. The same way we set the geometric inputs to the power copy and the geometric inputs to the document template. So I'm going to copy this last line, F feature, set attribute object. I'm going to copy that and paste it right below, except I'm going to change object. How about I copy this whole line? So this line says relations kp floors get item I dot set attribute string. I'm going to select from the dot to the end. So set attribute string, and I'm going to paste it over this right here. That's better. Now we'll do the same thing for the levels. Copy the F dash arrow symbol, paste it. Copy the set attribute integer and paste it, and then delete those two lines. You'll also notice that I put it before the end modify template. If we put it after the end modify template, it's not going to modify those inputs. The other thing you'll notice, we're instantiating a feature. If we wanted to be more specific, we could define the variable f as a variable type document template, but in this case, feature should work. Let's run our, the one thing, we haven't defined a location to instantiate. We're not going to instantiate a part into a geometric set, so we need to instantiate this into the product. And we're not instantiating a power copy, we're instantiating a document template, so we need to update the name. That's why it was nice to name that file or that document template the same, just with DT instead of PW. Let's check for any errors. No syntax errors, that's good. Let's see if this works. Click OK. The action has not run, and I know that when I run this, it's going to give me an error because my catalog is linked to a different location. So I'm going to press F10. I'm going to relink my catalog. I'm going to relink my catalog back here. See, that goes to my KP files. Good. Okay. Now if I run this action, fingers crossed, it's going to put all of my parts for every floor into this product. However, I just remembered, I forgot to add the drawing to my document template. So it's not going to instantiate the drawing. So we'll go back to the document template real quick. Double click on the document template itself. And what I want to do is I want to add an external document. So my external document, when I click add, is going to be my cat drawing, my cat drawing, the drawing file that I made. Not this one because that's from a different project. Let me go back to the tower floor study plan drawing that I created. And now when I instantiate my document template, it's going to instantiate my drawing too. Click OK. Now save. Let me make sure this drawing is saved. Okay, go over here and let's run the action. So right click on the action, action object, and run. It gives me a little preview window. Do you want to run this code? I say yes. And it's working. Right now it's instantiating the level, each level, and it's bringing up new windows. It's new drawings for every floor. So when it's done instantiating each one of the floors, I'm going to have 50 or 51, no, 50 cat drawings open in the background. I'll pause it now and let this thing run. We've done a fair bit of automation with this. And the reason we've automated so much is that now we can go back to the document template, go back to the power copy, and we can develop it with more detail. And as soon as we create more detail, we can go back to the model and we can regenerate the floor plans and the geometry relatively quickly. It might take us 20 minutes to regenerate. I mean, on a really complex model, it might take 20 minutes to regenerate the entire tower, but it's much less work to let the computer process all of that, and you focus on the details of the document template rather than trying to make a change to every floor. If you wanted to add detail after these are instantiated, you'd have to go level by level and add a wall, level by level and add something else. But since this is all contained in a document template where the generation of it is automated, you can go back to the original document template, make your tweaks, add your details, and then regenerate it with using the computer to its fullest, really. What if each level is different? You can do different document template families for different types of levels. Or you can make you can make one document template generative, intelligent, where you embed logic into the document template where it can decide how to express itself. If it is on floor 15 to 22, it's office space. It needs to create walls in this orientation with this layout. If it's levels 23 to 30, it's residential and it's going to do a different floor plan. Or it's going to orientate walls a little differently. In that case, though, if you're going a completely different program, you'd probably have two separate document templates. A document template for residential, a document template for office space. So the reaction was successful. Whenever a part was renamed, it looked like it did trigger the knowledge pattern for the smart divide. I have a pop-up window that's saying I've got drawings open, and it's going to go through and it's going to tell me I've got 50 drawings open. So I can click through this, or I can just hold down Enter until it's done. Great. It looks like my tags didn't update though. If I look in my window, I've got all of these different drawings. Let's look at a couple of them. Number 1, floor 1. Floor 1 is blank. Okay, Digital Project does this sometimes. If you generate all of these drawings, for some reason the screen goes blank and you can't actually see the drawing until you save it and reopen it. So I'm going to go to Save Management. You'll see all of these new parts that I've created. I'm going to save all of these parts in a new folder. Let's start with Study 1. Save as. Inside my driver, that's now I'm going to put it inside that Floors folder. Save. And it's done a very kind thing, which is saying it's going to propagate that directory to all of my other files that it just created. And I'll also click on these just to save. Oh no. I'm going to do that again. It reset the directory. Save as, select. We'll just save these for now. Click OK. All the drawings are saved. Let's go back to the product for a minute. And look inside this product now. I've got a file, a part for each level. That part's going to look exactly like the document template itself. It has inputs, and those inputs, if we go in and look at these inputs, they're probably going to be off in space exactly where we created them before. But it's also made external references. These external references now are linked up to the inputs part. It's got the same power copy geometry. There's a power copy now embedded in the file. That's okay. Now when I look at this tag, it looked like the tag didn't update. That's because the level didn't update. Well, that'll take a little troubleshooting. If we look now at the action, I can explain a little more about the code. So this is about as simple a for loop you can get. There's a beginning section where you're declaring variables. Here I'm saying let I is an integer, plist is a list, and f is a feature. These are the variables that I'll use later in the code. Here I'm defining plist, my list variable, as a list, a physical list that exists in the tree. This variable is now just a reference to this list. This list is a container for those published planes, level planes. From now on, whenever I use plist, it's just a placeholder for that list. When I say for I while I is less than or equal to plist size minus 1, I could just take this and paste it here, and it's doing the same thing. The reference from the variable type list to the actual list is the same. So I equals 1, for I while I is less than or equal to plist size.1 is saying I'm going to loop through every plane in this list except for the last one. The last plane I don't want to loop through, and that's because later on I'm grabbing I plus 1. So when I define plane 1 as my input as the index 1, the number of I from the list, if I went all the way up to the full size, then I plus 1 is going to give me an error because there's no plus 1 when I is equal to the size of the list. Plus 1 is an error. So F instantiate template. Here I'm going to my catalog. I'm instantiating the document template, and I'm placing it in that product. F set attribute object. In this case, plane underscore 1, it was defined as an input for my document template, and here I'm setting the object for that input as an item out of the list. And that item out of the list, as I iterate through my list, I'm grabbing sequential planes. So get item I, when I equals 1, is the first item in the list, which is the first plane. Get item I plus 1 is the second item in a list, which is plane 2. When I equals 2, plane list now equals what plane list plus 1 used to equal on the previous iteration. So now plane list get item 1 is the second plane. Plane list get item I plus 1 is the third plane. So every time I iterate through I equals I plus 1, I'm grabbing one plane for the bottom plane, and then the plane above it, the next plane in the list for the top plane. Here's the same thing, surface, set attribute string, name. That's supposed to be setting that name parameter. It's not working. And I suspect it's because of this symbol. I suspect it's happening because it's not f dot set attribute string and f dot set attribute integer. As you go through this tutorial and you write this code to begin with, try that. Don't use arrows, try dots and see if it renames all of your parts, the document templates that you instantiate. Because those are the published parameters, and those published parameters rename the geometric set. And then end modify template is just saying I've defined all my inputs. You can place the object in the tree. You can place the part in the product, or you can place the geometric set if it's a power copy in the different geometric set or a part. So that's the code explained. Now I'm going to rename action.1, instantiate DTs, and I'm going to save my full product here. I'm going to check save management. Everything is open, nothing is modified. And then I'm going to close this file. I'm going to close it because I want to reopen it in front of you and show you my file settings, my view settings, or my project settings, maybe is a better word for it. I've got an empty digital project here. I'm going to navigate to my Tower folder, all, and just open my Tower driver product. And it's going to load all of my files into visualization mode. So you see it's building CGR. Those are visual representations of each part. And now none of my parts are active. And the reason none of them are active is because in my settings, if I go to Project Center, I'm working with the catch mode. So while I can see every part, I can't edit any of them until I load them into design mode. I probably could have hit cancel there. So when I load something into design mode, you'll see my level planes or my grid is going to change the way they're visualized. I can double click on my grid, that loads it, and then I double click to get inside of it, inside of that part. Keep double clicking until you're actually in the proper workbench. Or from the product, you can right click on the part, go to components, representations, design mode. That's going to load that part into design mode, at which point you can go inside and start modifying it. If I want to modify all of these parts at the same time, I can either go through one by one, or if I want to load them all at the same time, I can double click on each one of them, or I can click here up on the kind of the container product, right click, representations, design mode. And I want to look at just one of the drawings to see, or maybe I'll open a few of the drawings to see how they've updated. So I'm going to go back to my driver folder, go in my floors. I'm going to open drawing 6 and drawing 28. So they need to be updated. If I update this thing, it's going to drawing floor 28, and it recut that section, and there it is. So now there I can see that projection. I've got a section cut and a projection. If I hide the projection, that's just the section. If I show that projection, if I select the projection, let's see, do I have graphics properties visible? I do. It's just, let's try this. Let's hide the section again. Change the line weight. My resolution is too low. There we go. Let's make these all light gray. And then show that section cut. That section cut should be showing up above. Sorry. Hitting the wrong buttons. Still not showing up higher. Well, it should. That should be showing up as thicker. Maybe it is if I zoom in. Oh well. So that's level 6. We go to level 8. 28, sorry. Update this one. And that one shows then a bit more of what's being projected.